I mean, it's badass. I mean, it's just classic evolution of cars in the 1960s, you know what I mean?
It's American muscle, man. This is the car you just get in it, smash the gas. Interesting to note, this car was replaced the Corvair.
This was the equivalent of a very, very expensive computer in an office building a long time ago. A dozen wires had to be run straight to your office building from the stock exchange. A guy at the stock exchange would be typing in, and that would go to hundreds of these machines.
A seller brings in an 1861 Sharps Hankins experimental rifle, a rare Civil War era prototype. He's a gun collector who got a great deal and now wants to sell to fund more purchases. Rick is fascinated, explaining the explosion of weird gun tech during the war, as companies fought for military contracts. The seller hopes for $3,000, but Rick's skepticism about originality and a thin market is immediately apparent.
It's an 1861 Sharps Hankins experimental rifle.
That's pretty cool. It was most likely some weird prototype. Do you know how many they made?
Somewhere between 700 and 750, and between 5 different models.
Rick asks if the rifle still fires. The seller believes it does, but Rick notes finding the bizarre caliber ammo would be tough. He shares the cool fact that sharpshooter comes from the accuracy of Sharps rifles. However, he spots issues. The stock looks sanded down, not original. Due to the rarity and his uncertainty, Rick decides to call in an expert, Sean, to get a real valuation and authentication.
I believe it does. Everything looks good, the bore.
There shouldn't be any problem firing it. Just finding the ammo for it is probably takes a bizarro caliber. And the beautiful thing is it says Sharps on it.
Yes.
And that's where the term sharpshooter came from. Did you know that?
I did.
A different customer has 2 18th century French door knockers, a severance gift for 30 years of work. Corey explains their fascinating history. In Muslim cultures, different sized knockers made different sounds, so women knew if a man was at the door. They were also thought to ward off evil spirits. The seller wants $1,800, but will take $500. Corey bluntly says there's no market, offering just $200 for both, a brutal reality check.
Actually, my boss gave it to me as a thank you for working for him for 30 years. Very nice French antique door knockers.
Okay, nice French antique door knockers. You worked for him for how long?
30 years.
The door knocker negotiation is swift and brutal. Corey offers $250 total. The seller is disappointed but accepts, reasoning he can use the money to thank his wife with a good dinner. This small deal highlights a common pawn shop theme. Sentimental value and historical intrigue often collide with a very limited resale market, leaving sellers to take what they can get for unique but niche items.
$200 for each.
Total.
Try $500 for both.
I'll go do $250. That's the most I'm gonna pay. Hey, there's not much here, man.
I'll take them.
You'll take it?
I'll take it.
Expert Sean examines the Sharps rifle. He loves it, detailing how its breech-loading design was advanced for 1861. However, he raises a major red flag. The barrel length is a weird, non-standard measurement, suggesting it's been modified. While a true experimental piece would be extremely valuable, a modified gun is far less so. This revelation completely shifts the potential value and sets up a tough negotiation.
So we have a Sharps experimental rifle.
I love seeing things like this because at the beginning of the Civil War, you had at least a half a dozen firing technologies fighting against each other.
Sean values the modified rifle at $1,500 to $2,000 retail. Rick, citing the alterations, offers only $1,000. The seller counters at $1,500. Rick comes up to $1,050, but the seller refuses, unable to go below $1,500. The deal falls apart. The seller leaves disappointed, believing the expert said it was worth more and plans to do more research. It's a classic case of appraisal versus offer price clashing.
I mean, so what will you realistically take for it?
I would say $17,500.
No, because that's what he said I could retail it for. It's been messed with. And if it hadn't been messed with, I would have paid you your $3,000 in a minute.
A new customer brings an amazing 1840s chess table with over 500 pieces of inlaid wood, including a design of a Fiji mermaid. He wants $5,000. Rick is intrigued but needs to identify a maker for it to hold that value. The seller explains the Fiji mermaid was a famous P.T. Barnum hoax, a monkey sewn to a fishtail. The unique, bizarre artwork makes this a highly unusual and specialized piece.
This is an amazing chess table.
Okay.
It's from the 1840s. There's over 500 pieces of inlaid wood.
Rick decides to call in an expert on weird artifacts, the Beard of Knowledge, to identify the maker. The seller is hopeful, noting everyone says they've seen inlaid tables, but nothing like this. The high ask of $5,000 hinges entirely on provenance. This sets up another investigation, this time into a piece of furniture that's equal parts folk art and historical curiosity, far from the typical pawn shop fare.
How much did you want for it?
I want $5,000 because on all the research that I did, even though it might have been really, really popular at a certain point in time where everybody had one, they're not around now. And never with this type of detail. That's what makes it unique.
The expert, Mark, arrives and hilariously brings an actual Fiji mermaid specimen, a creepy, stitched-up monkey-fish hybrid, to show Rick, who is horrified. Mark then examines the table. He believes the mermaid design with a top hat and pipe was a custom, joking piece made for an individual, but the table itself was mass-produced. The bad news? He cannot identify the maker, making it an anonymous, albeit cool, piece.
No, you called me about a Fiji mermaid, so I thought I'd bring one over with.
Fiji mermaid.
Yes, seen the real thing.
That is creepy, is what that is.
With no maker identified, Rick's offer plummets. He offers $500. The seller, who loves the table, counters at $2,500. Rick says they're too far apart and the deal dies. The seller chooses to keep it, confident he'll get his price elsewhere. This again shows how a lack of proven history can devastate an item's perceived value in the pawn world, no matter how visually impressive it is.
Unfortunately, in this particular case, I cannot identify who the maker was. It'd be nice to be able to, but this is going to be an anonymous piece. Still a very cool piece, but it is anonymous.
A regular, Adam, brings in a spectacular find, a 1589 military manual from Queen Elizabeth I's reign, one of the first of its kind in English. It includes fortification guides and has a spy connection. He asks $14,000. Rick is blown away, giving Queen Elizabeth her due as a powerhouse leader. Recognizing the extreme specialty, he immediately calls book expert Rebecca, knowing this is deep in her wheelhouse.
I brought something right up your alley.
What's that?
It's a book on the military and warfare from the time of Queen Elizabeth I. It's called The Instructions for the Wars, and it was printed in 1589.
Rebecca is thrilled. She makes a stunning literary connection. Passages from the book were used almost verbatim by playwright Christopher Marlowe, a contemporary of Shakespeare and a suspected spy himself. This link to Marlowe adds immense historical and cultural value beyond just being an old military book. The excitement in the room is palpable as they realize this isn't just a book. It's a piece of literary espionage history.
This is a contemporary vellum binding. This is very exciting.
Okay.
So Elizabethan-era, one of the great sort of rivals of Shakespeare was Kit Marlowe. And Marlowe wrote one play, it was very famous, successful, called Tamburlaine.
Rebecca delivers her valuation. Due to its rarity, intact folding plates, and the Marlowe connection, she places it around $12,000. This gives Rick a firm benchmark, though it's under the asking price. She notes this is exactly what people picture as a valuable old book. The stage is set for a high-stakes negotiation between two knowledgeable parties over a truly unique piece of history.
There aren't really any comps for this, okay? That's the tricky thing about it.
Okay. What do you think it's worth?
Looking at this has plates and this has that awesome Marlowe connection.
The negotiation is tense. Rick starts at $8,000. Adam argues the book's appeal. They volley $8,500, $9,000, then $8,600. Adam hesitates, saying it's hard to give up. Finally, he accepts the $8,600, planning to reinvest the money. It's a classic Pawn Stars compromise. Seller gets a solid payout, buyer gets a rare item for his shop.
You know, she said it's extremely rare.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you $8,000 for it.
I just think it has a lot of appeal. It's an exciting book.
It is an exciting book.
What's the absolute best? Will you come up at all?
I'll go $8,500.
A seller named Brian, after Brian Wilson, brings in a legendary longboard, the actual Beach Boys surfboard featured on 2 album covers. He's had it for 30 years. Rick is awestruck, calling it incredibly iconic and praising the Beach Boys as America's band. The seller reveals it was owned and used by drummer Dennis Wilson, the band's only real surfer, and comes with a notarized letter of provenance. The stage is set for a huge deal.
Yeah, it is. This is the actual Beach Boys surfboard that was pictured on their 2 album covers, Surf and Safari and Surfer Girl.
That's cool. So you've never surfed on it?
Well, I can't say that.
The seller drops the astronomical asking price. The board was recently the focal point of a Grammy Museum exhibit, insured for $200,000. He wants half, $100,000. Rick is honest, saying he has no idea what it's worth. The sheer scale of the ask, backed by museum-level validation, makes this one of the shop's highest-stakes items ever. Rick immediately calls for an expert, knowing only a specialist can navigate this.
This board was recently the focal point of a year-long exhibit of 50 years with the Beach Boys at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles, where it was insured for $200,000. And my asking price, half of that, I'm asking for $100,000.
Another seller has an 1874 Atlantic Monthly featuring the first published story by Mark Twain, a true story. Rick Weiss shares local history. Samuel Clemens took the pen name Mark Twain in Virginia City, Nevada. The story is a powerful monologue from a real slave about Civil War travestis. The seller asks $2,500, citing the rare original wraps. Rick is intrigued but skeptical. As magazines aren't typically big money, he calls expert Rebecca.
I'm doing great. I guess this is the Atlantic Monthly.
Yes, we have a first edition of a true story by Mark Twain.
That is really neat. He always had those great lines. I've quit smoking 1,000 times, in between each cigar.
Rebecca provides fantastic context. Twain was hugely popular in 1874, and the Atlantic Monthly used him to boost subscriptions. She confirms this is the beginning of his serious literary reputation. However, she delivers the brutal truth. In the collectible world, magazines are just not as sexy as books. A book by Twain is priceless. A magazine with his story is not. She values this individual volume at under $100.
In 1874, Twain was already very successful, very popular. He published a book about traveling as a sort of bumpkin American through Europe, and it was phenomenally successful.
The seller respectfully disagrees with Rebecca's valuation, but thanks her. Rick breaks the news. The ask was $2,500. The appraisal is under $100, so no deal. The seller leaves disappointed. This is a classic Pawn Stars lesson. Immense cultural significance does not automatically translate to high monetary value, especially when the format, a magazine, lacks the collectible cachet of a first edition book.
So you were asking $2,500, and Rebecca said it's less than 100. So obviously we're not going to do any business.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing it in, man. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
The Corey gets a fun item, a Prohibition-era hydrometer for testing alcohol proof, used by the seller's moonshining grandfather. He jokes about licking it to test last night's buzz. The Corey gives a cool science lesson, explaining how proof is double the alcohol percentage. He notes these were valuable during Prohibition to avoid blinding bathtub gin. The seller asks $100, seeing it as a neat historical curiosity.
Grandfather used when he made moonshine during Prohibition.
Nice.
The hydrometer, and it tells you what the alcohol content.
Do you mind if I take a look at it?
No, help yourself.
The Corey bluntly states the market problem. Real moonshiners buy modern tools, not an 80-year-old device. He offers $20 to take it off the seller's hands. They settle at $25. As the seller leaves, he smugly thinks he suckered the Corey, who overpaid. This quick, low-stakes deal provides comic relief and shows the Corey willingness to buy quirky history, even if it's just for the shop's weird collection.
These things got pretty valuable during Prohibition.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Billy in his bathtub making some kind of gin, and I don't want to drink bathtub gin, especially if there's a chance I might go blind.
A seller brings a Peter Max Statue of Liberty painting from 2010 with paperwork from an auction where Max himself was present. Rick delves into Max's fascinating bio. Born in Nazi Germany, raised in China, a pop art icon who helped restore the actual Statue of Liberty. His work sells for huge sums. The seller wants $35,000. Rick is interested but notes Max's massive output, calling for an expert to assess the specific market.
Pretty interesting. Peter Max has got a really weird storied life. You know what I mean? This guy was born in Nazi Germany, but his family doesn't go to the States or England. They go to China.
Surfboard expert Warwick arrives. He confirms the board's iconic status and its documented history from Dennis Wilson. He notes rock memorabilia can hit 7 figures, but this lacks signatures from the deceased Wilson brothers, which would make it insanely valuable. He says a deep-pocketed superfan might pay the $100,000 ask. But but for a quick sale, he'd buy it for $70,000. The insurance valuation is not the same as market price.
I'm quite familiar with the board. It's a very famous, iconic piece. We understand this was Dennis Wilson's board, Dennis, the drummer of the Brothers. He was the only one that actually was a surfer.
True.
Rick makes his offer based on the expert's advice. He argues the Beach Boys aren't as timelessly iconic as the Beatles. He offers $65,000 for a quick sale. The seller counters at $75,000. Rick holds firm at $65,000. The seller passes, believing the board's iconic status will fetch more elsewhere. This respectful pass on a six-figure item shows not every negotiation ends in a deal, even with a serious buyer and seller.
It was at the Grammy Museum where it was insured for $200,000.
As it should be. That's the insurance valuation, though. Doesn't always mean that's what you can sell it for.
Art expert Brett examines the Peter Max. He confirms it's an original, one-of-a-kind painting, not a print with embellishments. He details Max's unique style, influenced by jazz. The good news, the Statue of Liberty is his iconic image. The bad news, he's done over 1,000 of them and is still producing, creating market saturation. This overproduction creates a huge price range, making valuation tricky for a shop.
This is it, the Peter Max.
Peter Max. He's one of those few artists that, when you see him, you know it's a Peter Max. This is a nice work. He was also very much into American jazz, and he was one of the very first artists that would paint to music.
Brett gives his valuation. Due to the prevalence of Max's work, an appropriate price is around $25,000. This is far below the $35,000 ask, but confirms it has real value. The expert leaves, noting the shop could find an audience for a living icon like Max. This appraisal sets the stage for the final negotiation, giving Rick a firm anchor point far below the seller's hopeful price.
The good news is this is a fairly iconic image. The Statue of Liberty, he's identified for that, so that's a good thing. The bad thing is, he's done a lot of them. He's probably done over 1,000 of these type of images over the course of his career.
The seller is firm on $35,000. Rick, citing the expert's $25,000 valuation and market saturation, starts at $10,000. The seller counters, noting the $25,000 appraisal. They haggle, $15,000, then $12,000. Corey presses, that cash now is better than the seller being stuck with it. The seller accepts $12,000, planning to reinvest in his business. This deal shows Corey's skill in buying at a price that allows the shop room to profit.
I mean, what would be the best price you'd take?
I'm pretty firm on my $35,000 price.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'll give you 10 grand.
He said it's worth 25. Can you do 15?
I'll go 12 grand. That's cash money. You can walk out of here. I'm stuck with it. I hang it on my wall. If it doesn't sell, it's my problem, and you walk away with cash.
In a hilarious final scene, Corey tries to explain the Beach Boys' Surfboard to Chum and the old man. Chum has never heard of them, confusing their songs with Katy Perry and Tupac. The old man dismisses them as mindless music for the masses. Corey defends Brian Wilson as a genius, but gives up in frustration. It's the perfect chaotic end, highlighting the generational and cultural gaps within the shop's family.
Well, actually, a guy came in with the Beach Boys Surfboard. The one on the album covers? Well, you've heard those songs like California Girls.
Katy Perry.
No, it's not Katy Perry. That's
Katy Perry.
Beach Boys.
The episode opens with classic shop chaos. Chum has lost the keys to the display cases. Rick is furious, accusing him of losing his own head if it wasn't attached. Chum's solution? Borrow someone else's keys and look later. This petty, hilarious argument perfectly sets the tone for a workplace that's equal parts family and dysfunction, leading into Rick's iconic intro about never knowing what's coming through the door.
What do you mean you don't know? You're the last one with them. I saw you over here.
I lost them.
You lost the keys.
I didn't lose them, but I don't know where they're at. Chumway, you'd lose your ass if he wasn't attached to you. I guess I'm lucky then.
A customer brings a 1977 World Series Dodgers pennant signed by Frank Sinatra. He bought several at an auction. Corey is a Giants fan and instantly hates it, but the seller is thrilled. He explains Sinatra attended all 3 games that year. The big question is authenticity, as Sinatra was notoriously private and rarely signed autographs. The seller asks $750, but Corey is deeply skeptical about the odd pairing of items.
Okay, that looks like Frank Sinatra. Old Blue Eyes, huh? He probably was a Dodgers fan. I knew I didn't like him.
Corey voices his doubts. He argues a baseball fan might not want a Rat Pack signature, and a Sinatra fan might not want a Dodgers item. The seller counters that Sinatra was way more famous than any player and likely celebrated in the locker room. Corey admits he's no signature expert, and the oddity makes pricing impossible. He decides to call in his buddy Steven for authentication, a crucial move for any high-profile signature.
It's very possible that it could have been, someone on the team or someone for the organization. I mean, I'm sure after they won, Frank Sinatra went back into the locker room and talked to all the guys. I mean, he was 10 times more famous than anybody on the team.
A new customer arrives with the ultimate movie car, a Back to the Future DeLorean time machine replica he built himself. Rick is thrilled, as car items mean a test drive. The owner, a superfan, built it over 10 years after falling in love with the film as a kid. He calls it the most attractive movie car, noting it makes you popular, which ladies are attracted to. The tour of the iconic props is about to begin.
The DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future. You gotta see this thing in the dark. Pow!
Awesome.
The owner gives a full tour of the replica's incredible details. The time circuits, flux capacitor, and Mr. Fusion made from a coffee grinder. He jokes about going back to prevent Rick's conception. Rick notes the original, unreliable DeLorean engine is still there, a major downside. The owner then agrees to let Rick take it for a spin. A huge deal, as he's never even let his mom drive it. The excitement is palpable.
Famous for designing some really cool cars, but then he goes off and starts his own car company. He came up with a stainless steel body, which was really cool in the early 80s. Problem was, the car was so damn heavy by the time they were done building it.
The test drive is a hilarious, chaotic joyride. Chum gleefully presses all the non-functional buttons. Rick admits the car looks fantastic but drives terribly. It's hot, slow, and smells like gas, riding just like a stock, flawed DeLorean. However, the nostalgia factor and attention it draws are undeniable. This assessment perfectly balances the car's value as a visual prop versus its mechanical shortcomings, setting up the negotiation.
October 26, 1985. Let's go. This is cooler than the Batmobile, Rick.
Why are we driving this?
All the buttons were...
The owner states he's seen similar replicas sell for up to $100,000. Rick asks his price. The owner hints at $10,000 just for the time circuits. Rick counters that a working stock DeLorean is worth twice that. The owner argues about uniqueness, asking for $80,000. Rick dismisses this, offering $10,000, citing the cost to fix the mechanics. The owner compares it to a Picasso replica, but Rick isn't buying the analogy.
What do you want for it, though?
How close to that number do you think you can get?
Like 10 grand?
I get $10,000 worth of time circuits in the dash. Even if it was a stock DeLorean, it'd be worth twice that much.
Rick makes his final point. Very few people will buy a replica time machine. The deal falls through. The owner isn't upset, as he loves the car and wants it to go to a true fan. His final line is a perfect Back to the Future pun about knowing what the future holds. This failed deal shows that even the coolest items have a very limited, specific buyer pool in the pawn world.
You're gonna find very few people in this world willing to spend money to buy a replica time machine.
Well, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming by, man. Let him out, Chum.
Cooler than the Batmobile I saw, man.
Rick tries to solve Chum's key problem with a high-tech key finder that beeps when you whistle. He demonstrates it successfully. Chum gives Corey his keys to hide as a test. The old man grumbles that this is a pawn shop, not a playground. This silly subplot provides comic relief and showcases the childish yet endearing dynamic between the employees, a staple of the show's charm between big-ticket items.
Oh, wow.
All you gotta do is whistle and it beeps. Here, try it. See, it works. So put your keys on that. No more excuses on losing your keys or anything else like that.
Signature expert Steven arrives to examine the Sinatra pennant. He confirms Sinatra was a huge Dodgers fan, close with manager Tommy Lasorda, even singing the national anthem in 1977. Steven begins his detective work, noting the ink is a live signature, not printed. He reveals Sinatra was notorious for having women sign for him, making a real signature even rarer. The analysis builds tension as he compares it to a known exemplar.
were his closest. On April 7, 1977, which is the same year as that pennant, he came out opening day, sang the national anthem for him, and they bonded ever since then.
Stephen delivers his verdict. Despite some differences in the F, he sees enough similarities in slant and pressure to declare it authentic, though he rates the signature quality a 7 or 8. He values it at about $600. This expert appraisal gives Corey the ammunition he needs for the negotiation, transforming the item from a questionable oddity into a legit, albeit moderately valued piece of memorabilia.
You have a pennant that's flat. He's probably signing this on a flat surface, but I start to see similarities in angle, the slant, pressure.
So you think it's official?
Well, based on everything I've seen today, the ink analysis, looking at the exemplars side-by-side comparison.
The negotiation begins. The seller, citing online research, argues Sinatra signatures go for $1,200 and asks $700. Corey trusts his expert's $600 valuation and offers $300. They haggle. $400, $450, $500. They finally meet at $475. The seller is thrilled, having bought 10 pennants for $25 total. This deal is a win-win, showcasing how expert authentication turns uncertainty into a solid, mutually agreeable transaction.
$1,200 asking price, and I'd like to negotiate with you $700. I think that would be a fair price.
You know, I've got to trust my guy. I mean, he works for probably the most reputable company that there is when it comes to autographs.
A customer brings in a self-winding stock market ticker tape machine from around 1910. Rick gives a history lesson. It was the first paid TV, delivering stock info via wires for a monthly fee. He notes Edison invented the first reliable model. The customer says it symbolizes capitalism. Rick calls it a great conversation starter. The customer hopes for $12,000 to $14,000 but knows it's not realistic, setting up a classic pawn negotiation over a niche antique.
This was basically the first pay TV. What do you mean first pay TV? This was mass media into your house, but you had to pay for the service.
He's too young, he doesn't appreciate what you're telling him.
Rick points out the ticker isn't an early valuable Edison model and needs cleaning. He offers $2,500. The customer asks for $3,500. They meet in the middle at $3,000. The customer reveals he bought it for about $30, making a huge return. He wishes the stock market were that easy. This quick, successful deal highlights Rick's knowledge of industrial antiques and the seller's fantastic flip, a pawn shop dream scenario.
Ones that are much earlier than this and a lot better shape, go for that kind of money. This is some of the problems you have with this one right here. It needs to be cleaned up. It's 1900, 1910. It's not 1869. Big difference. It's not an Edison. I will give you $2,500 for it.
The episode ends with the key finder subplot's payoff. Chum finds his hidden key and gets revenge by tying it to a toy helicopter, trying to land it on a high shelf. Rick is furious, worried about damaging merchandise. Chum claims he's just having fun. This childish prank brings the episode full circle, ending on the chaotic, brotherly humor that defines the shop's daily life beyond the serious negotiations.
What are you doing? Is that the key to the showcase? Is that my key?
No.
Give me the keys to the showcase.
I'm going
Chum,
to land the helicopter up there.
Don't land the helicopter up there, Chum.
Rick gets a tip about a 1966 Chevy 2 Nova, a classic muscle car, and rushes over. He's a sucker for 60s muscle. The seller, who's only had it a few weeks, wants to fund a new project. He calls it a pro street car with a Corvette motor. His asking price is a firm $40,000. Rick is impressed by the look, but immediately starts scrutinizing the details, knowing custom cars are tricky.
So this is it, huh? Yeah, this is the dude, man, the 66 Chevy 2. I know you like slick rides, so this is one slick ride.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely cool, man. How long you had it?
I've had it a few weeks, have some fun with it, and now I'm thinking about doing a new project.
Rick inspects the Chevy 2, praising the paint, bodywork, and the impressive Corvette engine swap. He loves the interior's Knight Rider vibe. However, he spots a major mechanical flaw. The stock 1966 rear end is still installed. He warns it's a grenade designed for 90 horsepower, not the 400 from the new engine. This critical defect becomes the central point of contention, drastically affecting the car's value and safety.
The paint job is great. The body work on this thing is great. It all matches, it all flows together. So you mind if I pop the hood open?
Be my guest. It's an LS1 motor.
Holy
That looks good. That Corvette motor sure does look good, this grandma's car.
Rick states the rear end would implode during a burnout. He likes the car, but sees it as an unfinished project. The seller holds firm at $40,000. Rick counters with a lowball offer of $15,000, citing the $5,000 cost to fix the rear end. The seller refuses and the deal dies. The seller calls it Rick's loss, but respects his point, highlighting the classic pawn standoff between perceived cool and practical investment.
But you got to do a burnout every once in a while. You got to look cool for
Every
the girls,
day.
you know what I mean?
Every day.
If you do this on this car, the entire rear end will fold up and implode. I really like it, but I think I'd have a hard time selling it. I mean, what do you want for it?
I would think 40,000.
Back at the shop, Corey argues he needs a company car since all other owners have one. Rick insists on a basic, value-holding truck. Corey pushes for a fancy, fast Range Rover. Rick shuts him down, telling him to price a basic truck. This sets up a hilarious B-plot about Corey's questionable purchasing decisions, contrasting with Rick's practical, business-first mentality when it comes to major expenditures for the shop.
It's vinyl wrapped. It promotes the business.
Cool, someone else can drive it. I need a real company car.
Well, first off, I'm going to buy a company vehicle. It's going to be a truck. Trucks hold their value better.
Range Rover.
V6.
I'm telling you, dude, a Range Rover would be a dope
Chum.
company car.
A seller brings an 1886 souvenir program from the Statue of Liberty's unveiling. Rick is fascinated, sharing history about the base being funded by public donations via Pulitzer's newspaper campaign. The seller inherited it from her mother and hopes for $2,500 with a $1,000 minimum. Rick is excited but concerned it could be a later reproduction sold at the gift shop for decades, a common issue with historical paper items.
What do we got here?
Something you might be interested in. It's an original souvenir program from the unveiling of the Statue of Liberty, dated 1886.
That is really, really cool.
Rick admits the history nerd in him loves it, but he must be careful not to overpay. The seller asks $2,500. Rick's concern about a potential 1986 reproduction is valid. He decides to call in Mark Hall Patton, the museum curator, for authentication. The seller is excited for an expert opinion, confident in the item's originality. This sets up a classic investigation into a rare piece of Americana.
It really gives you a sense of what it was like on that day in 1886. The history nerd in me loves this kind of stuff. I just have to make sure that nerd doesn't pay too much. Do you want to sell this?
Yes.
So how much you want for it?
$2,500.
A new customer brings in a collection of about 25 badass Cupid dolls, actually Cupid dolls. Corey is baffled, asking if the seller's wife knows he's selling them. The seller confirms she does. It was her and her family's collection over 10 years. He hopes for $1,200 to $1,500. Corey admits dolls aren't his thing, but recognizes the Cupid brand's history. He calls an expert, knowing this is a highly specialized niche market.
What do we have here?
Yeah, this is my badass Cupid doll collection.
Got to be the first man ever in the history of the world to say that.
Absolutely.
Corey explains that while Cupid dolls have a great history, he's completely out of his depth on value. The seller mentions some dolls marked Germany could be valuable. Corey decides to call his friend Johnny, an expert on old toys, stating anything he'd say would be made up. This smart move avoids a bad offer and shows respect for the seller's potentially valuable collection, no matter how odd it seems.
What are you looking to do with them?
We're looking to sell them, as a group, because obviously I realize that some things are worth more than others. We're looking to get anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500.
Okay.
Expert Johnny arrives and gives a great history lesson. Cupid dolls were created by Rose O'Neill in 1909, the Care Bears of the early 1900s. He examines the collection, noting the need to check markings due to reproductions. He advises selling them individually, not as a lot. He values the vinyl ones around $40 to $50, with older pieces possibly worth $300 to $500 each. The total group value is estimated at $1,700 to $1,800.
So, you got a good selection. You got a little bit from everywhere. You've been collecting these for a while?
Yeah, the wife and I have been collecting them for about 10 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything. Not at all.
Well, they've been around for over 100 years. Rose O'Neill in the early 1900s.
Negotiation begins. The seller wants $1,200, happy with $1,100. Corey argues selling them individually will take a year and offers $1,000. The seller agrees, pleased the dolls are going to a good place and happy with the grand. This deal works because Corey bought the entire lot at a bulk discount, accepting the long-tail sales process, while the seller got a clean, immediate cash payout for a niche collection.
I know you got to make a little bit of money too. I mean, I'd like to get like 12. I mean, I think that's reasonable. My wife would be happy with that.
How happy would she be with 800?
If we're somewhere like around 11, that would be good. I mean, it still gives you plenty of money to make on it.
The company car subplot returns. Corey shows up with a huge, lifted diesel truck he already bought. Rick is furious, having asked for a price on a basic truck, not to buy a fly monstrosity. He orders Corey to take it back. This scene is pure comedy, showcasing Corey's impulsive spending and Rick's exasperation as the responsible boss trying to control the company's finances and image.
Sweet, check out the leather.
Oh, dude, it's badass, everything.
Steering's nice.
Chum, get down. It was such a good deal, you had to get it, huh?
Check it out inside, Rick.
If I didn't pay for it right now, I wouldn't have got the...
You go take it back.
Mark Hall Patton authenticates the Statue of Liberty program. He confirms its originality by examining the typeface and metallic inks, noting about 100,000 were printed, but maybe only 400 to 500 survive. He confirms it's from the 1886 dedication, the first ticker tape parade. This authentication is a win for history, verifying a rare, tangible piece from one of America's most iconic moments, which makes the coming low offer even more dramatic.
Pretty damn neat, huh?
Oh, that is cool. Very nice. The dedication of the Statue of Liberty. October 28th, yeah, that's right, 1886. This was a big deal.
Despite the verified rarity, Rick makes a brutally low offer of $200. The seller, who wanted at least $1,000, is shocked and disappointed. Rick argues it's not a first edition Mark Twain. She refuses, deciding to keep it in the family. This highlights a harsh pawn reality. Profound historical significance doesn't always command a high price, especially for paper ephemera with a very thin collector's market.
I mean, I don't mean to beat you up, but I would give you like $200 for this thing.
I want at least $2,500. It's extremely rare.
I know it's...
I've never seen another one.
The truck saga concludes. Corey returns with a more reasonable, normal truck. Rick is relieved it fits in the parking lot. Corey and Chum then reveal their scheme. Corey borrowed the outrageous lifted truck just to make the normal one seem like a compromise. They've been playing this psychological trick on Rick for years. It's a hilarious look at the son and employee constantly outmaneuvering the grumpy patriarch.
So this is the new truck. Here, still a lot more than I planned on, but it's not nearly as bad, okay?
Are you happy now?
Well, I'm still pissed off from earlier, but I'm happy now. It's at least a normal truck. It fits in the parking lot.